Hey everyone, welcome back to another video by Simplilearn. In this video session, we will be discussing about Infosys interview questions. These interview questions will help you understand the process and procedure for Infosys. So let's go ahead and understand something about Infosys, and then we will discuss Infosys recruitment process. After that, interview questions for freshers and experience, then the technical interview questions on Java. Following that, we will learn interview questions on database, and at last, we will address some questions asked by learners. But before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update from Simplilearn. So before we start, let us test your existing knowledge of Infosys. So who is the current CEO of Infosys? 1. Thierry Delaporte. 2. Salil Parekh. 3. Rajesh Gopinathan. Or Julie Sweet. Do leave your answers in the comment section below. Now, let's start with about Infosys. Infosys, India's second largest software exporter, is a public limited corporation founded in 1989 by Mr. N.R.Narayana Murthy. In 1981, Narayana Murthy borrowed Rs 10,000 from his wife to launch Infosys with his 6 former colleagues. In 1992, Infosys became a public limited company, and in 1999, it was the first Indian company to be listed on the NASDAQ. Also, did you know that Infosys didn't have a computer until 1983? Narayana Murthy had to wait nearly 2 years to receive his preferred PC. Today, the company has more than 90,000 crore in revenue with presence in 46 countries and having 40 years of experience. So this was about Infosys. Now let's go ahead and discuss the recruitment process of Infosys. Infosys recruitment process. Now to apply for Infosys, you must meet their requirements, which are in class 10th, in class 12th and graduation, a minimum of 60% is necessary. After that, qualified candidates must go through 3 steps of Infosys hiring process, which include the online assessment test, technical interview and the HR interview. In the online assessment test, the questions are from 3 different sections, which are quantitative aptitude, logical analytical reasoning and verbal ability. The quantitative aptitude test consists of permutations and combinations, time and speed, probability, percentage, ratio and proportion, and other related topics. In the logical analytical reasoning, there are data sufficiency, visual reasoning, coding decoding, and analogy. After that comes the verbal ability section. In this section, there are paragraphs completion, synonyms, antonyms, parajumbles, sentences, completion, etc. Candidates have to finish one section first in order to move to the next section. After that comes the technical interview round. So candidates are asked questions based on their resumes and the posts they have applied for during the technical interview round. You are required to be well versed in algorithms and data structures. At least one programming language you have to prepare: OOPS, DBMS, computer networks, operating systems, coding and problem solving puzzles, aptitude based questions, emerging technologies in your areas of interest. Also, expect questions on past and professional internship experiences and your role and contribution to them. Once both of these rounds are clear, then comes the final round, that is HR interview round. So this interview round evaluates your entire personality as well as your suitability for the post. You should expect inquiries on your talents, hobbies, reasons for applying to Infosys, educational background and job expectations. Now, let's move on to the interview questions that are often asked during the interview process. So let's start with the first question, which is what is an object in OOPS? So an object is an instance or subject of the class. It is a real world entity. It occupies space in the memory and has member functions defined in a class. Now moving on to the next question, which is what are basic OOPS principles? So there are some principles of OOPS concepts like abstractions, encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism. So here we have to explain those, like abstraction. Abstraction refers to the representation of essential properties without revealing the entire framework. Problems are solved at the abstract or interface level. Then comes the encapsulation. Data and the corresponding code are encapsulated, that is combined in a single unit called a class. And then there is inheritance. The existing class properties are inherited by new child class. For example, if there are 2 separate child classes such as dog and cat, they can inherit properties such as mammals and pets from the parent animal class. After that, polymorphism. It allows cross movement between parent and child classes. It is implemented using overriding and overloading. So these were some basic OOPS concepts. Now let's understand the difference between method overloading and method overriding. So overloading. Two or more methods in the same class have the same name but different parameters is called method overloading. Whereas the name and the parameters are same in superclass and the child class is known as overriding. So overloading comes under compile time polymorphism. Overriding comes under runtime polymorphism. If overloading breaks, the error will be highlighted during the compile time and can be easily fixed. In case of overriding causes serious problems on breaking as the error will be visible during the runtime. So now the next question in our list is mention some limitations of OOPS. Yes, there are some limitations of OOPS concepts also. So the limitations of OOPS are more prominent than other programming language in terms of size. It was a labor intensive to create and it ran slower than other programs. Next is for some problems it is improper. And the last one is it needs some adjustment. So these were some of the limitations of OOPS concepts. You can read about them in detail to understand them in a better way. Now let's understand some interview questions on C and C++. So what is the difference between C++ and Java? Which one do you think is better and why? So C++ was introduced for systems and application programming, while Java is used as an interpreter of printing systems and supports networking computing. Java is platform independent, which makes it easier for beginners to grasp. C++ is platform dependent. Both are extremely relevant to their fields of application and one cannot necessarily be said to be better than the other. Alright, so these were some of the differences that we can figure out between C++ and Java. Next up we have explained some important differences between C and C++. So C is a procedural language and does not have concepts of classes, objects and other principles related to OOPS. Whereas C++ is an object-oriented language and contains all its characteristics and principles such as inheritance, encapsulation, and polymorphism. C cannot run C++ code, whereas C++ can run, I repeat, C++ can run almost every C code. C programming language does not support operator and function overloading, whereas operator and function overloading are easily implemented on C++. In C, main function can be called from any other function, whereas in C++, main function cannot be called from any other function. So these were some of the differences between C and C++. Now, coming to the next question. What different forms of data are there in C++? The four C++ data types are listed as basic data type. Under basic data type, character, short, int, float, long, double, boolean, etc. are some examples of it. Data type that was derived. Under this, examples like include pointers, arrays, etc. These are derived data types. Enumeration instance, also known as enum. It is also a data type. Now, data kinds that are user defined, that are class, structure, etc. are instances. So these were some of the different forms of data that are there in C++. Alright, now moving on to the next question. Define class and object in C++. So a user-defined data type called a class has member functions and data members. The data variables are known as data members, and the methods used to manipulate these variables are known as member functions. A class instance are objects. An object can alternatively be referred to as a parameter of a course because a class is a user-defined data type. Alright, now moving on to the next question. What various SQL subsets are there? DDL, DML and DCL. So DDL stands for Data Definition Language. It allows you to create, modify and remove objects in the database among other activities. In DML, you can access and manipulate data using the DML, that is Data Manipulation Language technique. You can use it to access, update, remove and put data into the database. Now DCL. that is data control language. You can manage database and access using DCL. Example, permission to grant and revoke access. So these were some operations that you can done using these subsets of SQL. Next question on our list is, what distinguishes between SQL and MySQL from one another? So the structured query language, also known as SQL, is a common English language based language. Now the MySQL, a database management system, is called MySQL. So the heart of relational databases which are utilized for databases access and management is called SQL. Whereas like SQL Server, Informix, etc., MySQL is an RDBMS, that is Relational Database Management System. So these were the two differences between SQL and MySQL. Now coming to the next question, which is, what is the difference between session and a socket? So a session is a logical connection established between the source and the destination. A socket is the physical apparatus used to implement a session. So this is the difference between a session and a socket. Next is, what is the difference between TCP and UDP? So UDP is a protocol without connection, whereas the TCP is a connection oriented. UDP is much simpler, faster and more efficient than TCP. Next up we have, what is SDLC, that is Software Development Lifecycle. An SDLC presents the life cycle of software in the diagrammatic form. It displays the software's methods for its complete development, maintenance, requirement, analysis, etc. Moving on to the next question, which is, what are the disadvantages of the waterfall model? So the waterfall model is not a user-friendly as it does not consider the end product from the end user end. It is not flexible in terms of accommodating changing. Also, it disallows testing until after the finishing of the project. So these were some of the disadvantages of the waterfall model. Now, explain a network and node. So a network is a collection of gadgets linked together via a physical transmission. Node is another word for a device that is connected to a network. If two PCs, two machines and a web server are all linked to a network, we may say that there are 5 nodes within the network. Now our following question is, what are the various testing techniques? The following are the 3 different types of software testing, that is black box testing, white box testing and gray box testing. So the black box testing. This is a testing approach that only relies on specifications and requirements. This approach does not call for any understanding of the internal structures, routes or implementations of the software being examined. Whereas white box testing is a testing method that examines the internal code, execution and integration routes of the software under test. White box testing typically calls for in-depth programming abilities. When using the gray box testing to debug a software, the tester has a little access to the program's internal workings. So these are the 3 different types of software testings. Next question is, what do a software testing, verification and validation entail? So confirmation, first of all, it is a typically analytical method. Without running the code, testing is done in this case. Reviews, inspections and walkthroughs are a few examples. Testing is performed by running the code in a dynamical analysis process called validation. Techniques used in testing that are functional and non-functional are examples. The development and QA processes are carried out simultaneously under the V model. Testing does not have a separate phase of its own. Instead, it begins with the requirement phase. The actions of validation and verifications are complementary. Coming to the next question, what varieties of networks are there? Briefly describe each. Networks come in 4 main categories: PAN, LAN, MAN and WAN. So PAN, the smallest and most basic network form, a personal area network, is frequently used at home. It is a link between a computer and a different gadget, such as telephone, printer, broadband, iPad, etc. Then there is LAN, that is local area network. Local area network links a few computers together in office spaces and coffee shops. They are typically used to play games or transfer files via network. Then comes MAN, a more robust network type than LAN is the Metropolitan Area Network, which is the full form of MAN. The MAN service area includes a small city, town, etc. A massive server is utilized to cover such a vast area of connection. Then comes WAN, that is Wide Area Network. The Wide Area Network is more intricate than LAN and generally spans a considerable physical distance. The largest WAN that is globally distributed is the Internet. It has a distributed ownership rather than single ownership by an organization. So these were some varieties of networks. Now coming to Infosys technical interview questions on Java. So let's start with these questions. How is polymorphism implemented in Java? So polymorphism can be implemented either through overloading at a compile time or overriding at runtime. After this, you can continue by elaborating on differences between that overloading and overriding. So this is how you can define this polymorphism implemented in Java. Next is, what is the difference between stack and heap? So Java heap space is leveraged throughout the application, while stack space is used for the method or methods running currently. Heap space uses dynamic memory allocation, while the stack is used for storing local variables during the runtime. Now coming to Infosys interview questions on database. So let's start with the question, what is database schema? So the database schema represents the overall logical framework of a database. It is an abstract structure made in one of the formal languages accepted by the database. Next question is, what are clustered indexes? A cluster index is used to define the order in which the data will be tangibly stored in the table. If you add a primary key to a table, it automatically becomes a clustered index. Moving on to the next question, which is, what are SQL triggers? So an SQL trigger is an object that raises an alarm when something happens in a database. For example, a trigger can be set to record the deletion of an entry from the database. So these were some interview questions. Now let's understand some questions that are asked by learners. So let's move on to the questions that are asked by learners. First we have, what is the salary of a fresher in Infosys? Very interesting question. So freshers get a starting salary of 3 to 4 lakhs per annum. The salary is increased after the probation period of 1 year. Second is, does Infosys require a degree? Yes. You must be a graduate with BE or BTech degree to be eligible for the selection process at Infosys. Next question is, how should I prepare for Infosys technical interview questions? So you are expected to have a thorough knowledge of at least one programming language, data structures, operating systems, and other computer related terminology. Practice the most probable questions beforehand, especially those related to your areas of interest and academic achievements. Coming to the next question, which is the interview process of Infosys easy? So most reviewers on online forums describe the interview experience as easy to moderate. As long as you can control your nerves, you have the conceptual clarity on your fundamentals, you can be assured of your selection. The following question is, why should we hire you in Infosys? How to answer this question? Detail what value you can be expected to add to the organization. You can use your past experiences and achievements to make a case for why you will be a great asset to the company. Next question is, how is the work culture in Infosys? So the work culture at Infosys is very inclusive and encourages individual growth. The infrastructure is sharp and high quality. Innovation and exploration are appreciated and valued. Coming to the following question, how is Infosys interviewing experienced candidates? So experienced candidates are expected to have a more in-depth understanding of the technologies used in the industry. They should also have informed opinions and knowledge on technical aspects such as waterfall model, the most popular SDLC model, and other similar questions. You will also be asked about your role and the contribution in your previous job and your reasons for switching, salary expectations, etc. So this was the answer for this question. Next we have, why do you want to join Infosys? So delineate how you think you can contribute constructively to the company. Also, express the positive points in the popular perception of the company that makes you hold it in the high esteem. Coming to the last question, which is what is special about Infosys? First is Infosys is employee-friendly organization. Then it has the leading capabilities in AI, cybersecurity, automation, IoT, data analytics, and cloud computing. It is rooted in Indian values. Infosys has the inspiring stories of founders. It also has a world-class infrastructure and training capabilities, which makes it very special organization. So these are some of the Infosys interview questions. If you have any doubts, you can put them in the comment sections. And with that, we have come to the end of this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. I hope it really helped you all. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and keep learning.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.